What's up, guys? Just wanted to share with you guys while I do some juicing today. Today I'm juicing some pomegranates with some sugarcane, as well as some Granny Smith apples. Just making a juice, and I just wanted to talk with you guys while I share, while I juice. Wanted to share with you guys while I talk. But basically, this is sugarcane. If you're not familiar with it, I already cut off the outer husk. And it's kind of hard on this juicer, to be honest. Sugarcane is it's real fibrous, so it requires a special machine. They have sugarcane juicers, but at the moment I don't have one, so I'm making do with what I have. And that is the Greenstar Elite, which I equipped with a mesh screen that has thicker holes, and I'm cutting it into real small chunks in order that it won't get stuck. And I'm also alternating the kernels from the pomegranate with the sugarcane, so that it will help push through some of that fibrous content, so that it won't get clogged up as much. And I tested this out yesterday. It was a pretty good juice, actually, and I liked it, so I'm doing it again. And plus I already dehusked some of the sugarcane, so I'm trying to let that not go to waste, And sugarcane is real beneficial. It's actually a grass. It's like a big version of wheatgrass. It's very highly mineral rich. It absorbs a lot of minerals, and the sugarcane I got was a green sugarcane variety, but usually I like to go for more of the purplish sugarcane. The darker, you always want to go for darker fruits and vegetables, and just darker food in general is always going to generally tend to have a richer phytonutrient content and mineral content, just based solely off the darker color. Bioflavonoids and phytochemicals and whatnot. So you can observe that in berries. Like the darker the berry, the sweeter the juice, as they say. So that kind of applies to other plants as well. So you always want to try to go for the darker material foods. That way you get more of the mineral properties and the phytonutrients and all the constituents inside of that plant. So I'm going to cut up the sugarcane now. This sugarcane. I'm going to cut it up into little chunks, as small as I can, thin as I can. That way it'll go into the Greenstar Elite. Sugarcane is essentially what they get sugar from, but they heat it up and then they get the syrup, and then the whole process that goes into getting sugar, and in the process you lose all the enzymes, you denature a lot of the constituents that are inside the actual raw plant material, and you make essentially what is one of today's most highly addictive substances that people don't even know they're addicted to, which is called sugar, highly processed sugar. And it's in everything. You go to the grocery store, it's in everything, and actually sugar is what actually exploded the slave trade. So it has some pretty dark roots. Sugar is pretty much one of the most toxic things you can consume on a daily basis, and that people do consume and don't even realize it. There's actually no daily recommendation for sugar. If you look at the recommended daily allowance for sugar, there is none as far as the United States government is concerned, and that is because if they had to set a recommended daily allowance, it would probably corrupt the whole sugar industry and consequently the whole product industry of America, of all these products that are just laced with tons and tons of addictive sugar, which is, I don't know how many times, I think it's 10 times more addictive than cocaine. They did a study actually that they got rats that were already addicted to cocaine. They were putting cocaine in their water, and then they introduced sugar water to them, and then they gave them the option of either sugar water or cocaine, and lo and behold, they were going for the sugar water preferably over the cocaine water at a rate of, I think, 8 or 10 times higher than cocaine, you know. So it's kind of ridiculous how they turn something so innocent as sugarcane, something natural grass growing out of the earth with all its mineral content and enzyme content and phytonutrients, into a drug essentially. And that's what they do with a lot of plants. That's the kind of the history of humanity, is taking good things and making them toxic and not very beneficial for the human body or for consumption. Same goes with things like, you know, like tobacco. Tobacco was used as an anti-parasitic herb. It was very heralded by the Native Americans as a medicine, and then corporate America got a hold of it and introduced thousands of chemicals to it, completely hybridized the shit out of it, and made it something that's not very good to consume. So, I mean, I don't really advocate the smoking of anything, because smoking in itself is a toxic thing to do. But what I'm trying to say is that there's, like, tobacco can also be used as a plant in the garden for pests, as a pesticide, natural pesticide essentially. And you know, we have this common theme in society, in civilization, to take things that are very good and beneficial and make them into toxic things and harmful things to the human. So I took the whole thing, I cut it, I'm cutting into thin little strips that I can drop into the Greenstar Elite. Now these things, you can just chew on it too if you want. The cane, I remember I used to do this as a kid. My parents used to bring sugarcane, and it's called caña in Spanish. And you just chew on it, and then you spit out the fibrous material. Alternated with some pomegranate. Pomegranate is a diuretic, meaning it will make you urinate, and it's excellent for clearing out the urinary tract, for urinary tract infections. It tastes delicious, so it's always a benefit. Pomegranate is how I open it. Great juice, this is a great combination. Plus, these are things that are in season currently. The sugarcane, just picked it up from the farmer's market. It was the first time of the season that I seen at the farmer's market, so it's barely coming in. they're barely harvesting it. And pomegranates are also seasonal, so I always like to figure out little recipes of seasonal things in my area. That way I'm eating seasonal and local, and that's always the best, eating the freshest foods that are growing at that season in your local area is always going to be the best option for you. Pomegranates are also, they're not very hybridized fruit. Essentially these are all seeds. And that's always a better thing. The more wild the fruit, the better. It's not always going to be the best tasting, but the bitter, astringentness of the fruit is what gives it its potency and its medicinal qualities. Once you start taking that away and start hybridizing it for sugar content, you lose a lot of the compounds that are responsible for medicinal healing in the body, in the human body, and you start screwing with some of the chemistry, and it starts to be unbalanced. Take for instance a plant like cannabis that's supposed to have, many different cannabinoids, yet it's been highly hybridized in recent times to only have high levels of THC, because people only recognize that as a beneficial factor in cannabis because they can feel the effects of THC, but what had happened is it unbalanced a lot of the medicinal properties of the other cannabinoids such as CBD and CBN and some of the cannabinoids that are responsible for healing in the endocannabinoid system in the body. So it needs to be a balance between these constituents and these compounds. And once you start hybridizing for certain things, you start losing the natural balance that's been implemented over hundreds of thousands of years, possibly millions of years of evolution. So these things are important to remain intact and remain in its most natural state. Looking for wild plants that haven't been hybridized or that have been very little hybridized and still have some of those wild qualities, still have that tough and rigidness to them, and they're not weak and sterile plants. That's what you want to look for when you're eating fruit and plants and vegetables and these things. Look for heirloom, wild, and of course organic. That's already, it's not even, should be a given. Shouldn't be even a question about whether you eat organic or not. You always should strive to do that. Chemicals should never have been introduced into agriculture to begin with, but due to the state of civilization we currently inhabit, I'm a little off the deep end, but I think in the coming years we're gonna come back and restore the balance to this planet. I mean, because it's either that or we go extinct, so we don't really have a choice. So it's kind of cool, It was a cool learning lesson. We toyed around with chemicals and toxins in the environment, and we found out that it doesn't work. I mean, in hindsight, we should have saw that coming, but we're here to learn and experiment, and that's what happens when you're a curious human, and also greed comes into the equation, and but we're gonna overthrow that. It's coming. The awakening is rampant. It's happening. People are resisting it, but going resistant for so long, eventually when 1 out of 2 kids is autistic and the world can no longer function without a comprehensive, aggressive approach at health and regeneration and detoxification, then it's going to be something that's going to happen, or else there's going to be no continuation of what we know today as humanity, civilization, and so that's gonna have to happen in order for us to continue as a race, I believe. And necessarily, it was a learning lesson of knowing that we have to abide by the rules of nature, because nature is the ultimate time-proven teacher and holder of wisdom, and in many ways we cannot improve on its design. We can always use the rules of nature to get better results, but we have to stay within the confines of those laws that govern the universe. For instance, we can improve upon a habitat or an environment for a plant to grow on using natural methods of growing, and grow a very beautiful, healthy plant. But when we start introducing exogenous chemicals and constituents that aren't supposed to be in that environment, that's when we start going out of whack with nature, and we start seeing some of the toxic and health start seeing some of those negative health effects that are rampant in society. So that's what I mean by staying within the confines of nature's laws, in order that we respect and love this beautiful planet which we've been given the blessing to experience, and so that we can all have a better experience. Like, nobody wants to be sick, nobody wants to be suffering and diseased and not having a good time. Like, I think there's a possibility for all of us to have a good time on this planet and have a great experience. We don't need to be dying and suffering and being in hospitals and going from doctor to doctor trying to find out what's happening, when nature already holds the key to health and success. We just gotta be observers of that process and just have fun doing it, really. Like, you can't go into this lifestyle as a sacrifice. You have to look at it as a beautiful experience that you're undertaking, and that you have to enjoy, while you're in the process of transforming your life for the better. A lot of people, they go into this lifestyle and they look at it as a sacrifice, and those are exactly the people that don't succeed or don't heal themselves because of the attitude. Really, it's the attitude that comes first. If you don't have the correct attitude, you're not going to be successful in anything, really. You're going to fall back to your old ways. You're going to self-sabotage. You're not going to be successful in anything you do if you're going in with a negative attitude. You have to embrace it fully and just kind of have belief in it, really, like a belief that you're going to heal yourself, not more of a faith, just knowing that you are. And that's what makes the difference between those people that heal themselves and that improve upon their life, and those that don't. Those that return back to their old ways and end up sick again and miserable and depressed and diseased. And maybe they'll give it another go, but until they change their mindset, those people will not be able to experience the levels of health and vitality that are for every human being on this planet. So, show you guys how to cut a pomegranate. Cut the top open. Take this off. guys know, but all fruit essentially bears the star geometry. And this one you can see, you guys can see that, but some of the star has the ridges, and that's where you're going to want to cut, where those lines from the star geometry. Alright. And then once you cut that, you just pop it open. Your kernels. Yeah, I'm probably going to cut this video short because it's taking a while. These things aren't, it's not like most fruit. It's not like most fruit where you're just cutting and putting it in there. It takes a little more work, so, but